Hi Year 3, it's Mrs Kirby doing today's maths lesson. Now before we all had to stay at home and we were at school, we were learning about multiplication. We were learning about arrays, which is like a little picture to show what a multiplication might mean. Now to warm you up a little bit, I want you to catch a few words for me. Now if you haven't done this with me before, I'm going to throw you a word like that and you've got to catch it in your hand. And as you catch it in your hand, you've got to say the word out loud. Now all of these words that I'm going to be asking you to catch are all words that mean the same as multiplication, the same as this operation. Now I've put the 4 operations here. We sometimes call these 4 ops or 4 operations, and that means multiplying, dividing, adding and subtracting. But the one that we're looking at today is the multiplying one. So let's see if you can catch my words that I'm going to throw at you. You ready? Multiply. Groups of. Lots of. Equal groups of. Times. Multiplication. Repeated addition. Times. Multiply. Multiply. Times. Lots of. Groups of. Multiply. I wonder how many you managed to catch. Can you think of 3 words in your head that also mean the same as this, the times symbol? Just have a little think in your head. Have you got some? Good. Now we were looking at arrays to help us solve a multiplication question and to help us really understand what it meant. Now I've got an easy one to start off with, and some of you probably know the answer to it, but it's good to be able to draw that to represent it too. So I've written here 3 times 2 equals. Now some of you might know the answer to that already, and that's brilliant. That's because we're so good at our times tables. But I want to draw a little picture under here to help me represent that multiplication number sentence as an array. An array is a picture of a multiplication. And I help myself by thinking of the word lots of or groups of whenever I'm thinking of multiplication. So I'm going to read that multiplication sentence, but instead of saying times, I'm going to say groups of and lots of. So I need to draw 3 groups of 2, 3 lots of 2. I'm going to have a go at drawing that now. So I need 3 groups, and there's got to be 2 on each one. Bear with me while I draw it. Now what I've drawn here are our place value counters. Obviously I don't have counters at home with me. I wish I did, but I wasn't as organised as that. We use place value counters at school. We use the ones, we use the tens, we use the hundreds, we sometimes even use the thousands and the tens of thousands, the little coloured counters that we use. So I've drawn that as my ones counters. Okay, and I've got 3 lots of 2. What would that look like on a bar model? I'm going to have a little go now. It's very hard getting a whiteboard in the video. So I've drawn my chocolate bar model over here. The top bar is my total, my answer. Some of you probably know that. You knew it really quickly. I now know my answer because 3 groups of 2 gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the answer is 6. I can write that in. But I can also write it in on my bar model as well, which is just another picture to show the same thing. So my total is 6, and I know that because I did 3 equal groups, so I've split my bottom bar into 3 equal pieces, and there's 2 in each one. So I can go 2, 4, 6, gives me the answer 6. Now I'm going to write the answer to this question, 3 lots of 2, 3 times 2 equals 6, in my place value grid up here. I'm not going to write it in the tens, and I'm not going to write it in the hundreds. I'm going to write it in the ones because the answer I've got is just 6. Now the reason I started simple is because let's try and make that 10 times bigger. Let's try and make it 10 times larger. So this time I'm not going to do 3 times 2, I'm going to do 3 times 20 and make it 10 times bigger. Okay, so I'm doing exactly the same thing, but I'm making this 10 times bigger now. Instead of drawing ones place value counters to show the array, I'm going to draw tens place value counters to show that it's 10 times bigger. I'm going to change the colour of my pen just so it can help us. So I'm going to go for my purple pen. Ooh. Okay, so the same thing. I want to do 3 lots of 20, 3 groups of 20. How many tens make 20? 10, 22 of them. So I'm going to do 10, 20, that's one group of 20, but I need 3 of them. Three groups of 20, and you can see them here. There's one group, 2 groups, 3 groups. I'll write it on so you can see. I've done the same number sentence, but I've made it 10 times bigger. Now the answer to that isn't 6 this time. I've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. The answer's 60. Now take a look at this. I can't leave that 6 there. I've now got 6 tens, which is the same as 60. So I'm going to go to my tens column. And what do you think I need to write in there? Yeah, 6 tens. So I'm going to do a 6. But what do I need to write there to show that there aren't any ones? I need to do my 0. Okay, so we've made it 10 times bigger. Let's see if we can do the same number sentence, but now we're going to make it 100 times bigger. You up for the challenge? I hope so. Right, let's have a look. So let's do 3. Oh, I want my black pen again. Where's my black pen gone? Here it is. My number sentence is going to be 3 times 200 this time. So now I'm not going to use my tens counters. I'm not going to use my ones counters. I'd use my hundreds counters. I haven't got them with me, so I'm just going to draw them out. So I want to draw out an array for 3 lots of 200. 3 times 200. I'm going to draw those counters out now. I need my green pen to show my hundreds. Let me just swap over pens. Can any of you think what the answer might be following the pattern? We've got 6, 60. Some of you might already know what the answer is going to be, but let's see if we can draw it still, because that's important. So instead of tens counters, I'm going to draw out hundreds counters, and I want 3 lots of 200. $100, 200. Oh, sorry. 100, 200. Can you see? But I want 3 lots of 200. So let's carry on going. What do you think? Is this what you were thinking too? So I've got 1 lot of 200, 2 lots of 200, 3 lots of 200. Can you spot the answer? I can count my hundreds to help me, or my 200s if you can manage that. 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. So the answer to that one is 600. You might have spotted a pattern when we're making something 10 times bigger and 100 times bigger. Let's see if you can spot what we'll do over here. So this time I haven't got 6 tens in my answer. I've got 6 hundreds. So I need to rub that out there. And in the hundreds column, I need to put a 6. 6, 0. There's something missing here to show that this answer doesn't have any tens. Are you right? Are you thinking? A 0. 600. Let me quickly write those number sentences out over here, and you might be able to see what happens when we make something 10 times bigger and 100 times bigger. Let me quickly write it out. Give me 1 second. You could do the same on a piece of paper if you've got one in front of you. That would be really helpful. Right, so we found out that 3 times 2 is 6. We probably knew that one already. We found out that 3 times 20 was 60. We found that 3 times 200 was 600. Let's see if you can spot the pattern. So we started with the ones, then we made it 10 times bigger, 100 times bigger. Can you spot the pattern? Well done. You've listened really well. What I'm going to do on the school website is I'm going to write you out some questions to do just like this one. So I might give you one like this. 2 lots of 5 equals. Okay? I'd want you to draw out what that would look like. Okay? Then you'd make it 10 times bigger and do 2 lots of 50. Then you'd make it 100 times bigger and do 2 lots of 500. Each time I want you to be drawing it out in your place value counters. When you're making something 10 times bigger, you draw your 10 counters, and when you're making something 100 times bigger, you draw your hundreds counters. I'll leave you some on the school website to have a go at. If you complete it on J2E5, it means me and Mrs. Smith can have a look at it straight away. If you can't do that, don't worry, just do it on a piece of paper, and your adult might be able to help you take a picture of it and email it over to us. Okay? Good luck. I hope that was helpful. Bye.